All right, guys, welcome in, welcome in. For months, Candace Owens, I got to tell you, for months, she has been trying to destroy everything that Charlie Kirk has worked for, brick by brick. And honestly, in my opinion, I think it's because she thought in her mind that she was supposed to be the heir apparent. She thought that she was supposed to be taking over Turning Point for whatever reason, because supposedly, in her words, there was supposed to be a big time reunion with her surprising everybody and her and Charlie Kirk being on stage and surprising everybody and the big time reunion for all these people, because she did used to work for 20 back in the day, but she had to step down after, those controversial comments. But now she's accusing everybody. Apparently, Turning Point insiders knew about the death beforehand. They're trying to cover up. So literally, Erika Kirk now has to go on Fox News and Hannity and all these other talk shows and literally defend herself. Mind you, a grieving widow who stepped in to be the CEO. Normally, when a husband passed, they pass on their things to the family members. So it's not surprising that Erika Kirk became the CEO and was elected to be in that position. I don't know why Candace thinks that she needs to be the heir apparent or whatever, but I think that she's, obviously bothered that she was not chosen to take over Turning Point for whatever reason. So this is why I think that she's leveling all these accusations at Turning Point, literally going on the record and saying that you should not be donating to Turning Point, all these terrible, wild accusations. So Erika is literally on camera on Fox News and all these other shows talking about, no, this is not true whatsoever. I have to defend my family. I have to defend my friends. People who Charlie Kirk called family members are now, having to have personal security and having death threats because of Candace Owens' wild accusations, which, by the way, no evidence whatsoever. So I'm glad that you had this private meeting with Erika Kirk on a sit down in Nashville to kind of go over. And I'm actually really glad about this interview with Piers Morgan, because Piers Morgan really pressed her. And it's easy for Candace Owens to go on camera and talk in front of people and not get, when there's no questions asked, she can say whatever she wants, and she's great, and she's a great talker, but Piers Morgan pressed her. And that's why this was so good, because normally I'm like 50-50 on Piers, but Piers Morgan pressed the crap out of her, and he was not letting her go in. When she was trying to backpedal and backtrack and, oh, no, I didn't say this. He was like, no, you did say this. I need the evidence. Where's the evidence? And she had no answer. So this is why we're going to get right into this interview. This interview is great. It's a bombshell. So let's just, without further ado, let's just get right into this interview with Piers Morgan and Candace Owens, because it was explosive.
Years, I'm not naive enough to say every single thing you've been saying is obviously baloney, because I don't know. And we'll get to some of the more specific details. But is there not a danger, Candace, that by having a 4.5-hour private meeting, rather than doing it in public, that all you're really going to do, collectively, actually, you and Erika Kirk, is fuel the conspiracy theories about what you may or may not have discussed in that meeting, what part of the stuff that you've been broadcasting on your show she agrees with and doesn't agree with, and so on. Is there not a danger this is the least transparent way of going about trying to get solutions here?
Well, I'm a very transparent person, so my preference was to do it publicly, but I took the offer, obviously, to have any conversation, because if I hadn't done that, then I think everything I've been doing would have appeared disingenuous. Like, oh, Candace is pretending that she wants answers to her questions, but when she got this offer, she suddenly said she didn't want to go because it wasn't public. They would have felt like I was moving the goalpost. So I was willing to take anything. And from their viewpoint, they felt like after the CBS News and the Fox News hits that Erika did, my understanding was that they felt that it was a good idea to bring the temperature down first by having us sit down and communicate. And that doesn't mean that they necessarily say, oh, well, that's it. Now we're not going to have any other public discussion. I'm hopeful they will. I think they should. I totally agree with you. More transparency, the better.
Who else was in the meeting? Erika was there. Who else was there?
Justin Strife, who is the COO of Turning Point USA, and my husband was only there for a portion of it, and my cousin.
So there were no lawyers, for example?
No lawyers. But they did phone their lawyer, because I asked the question. I was like, look, I'm open to being wrong, obviously. If there is something, which I think the media was kind of hinting at, that they had more but they couldn't share it with the public, I said, I'm happy to keep my mouth shut, and I want to feel good walking out of here that there is something there. There is some sort of a smoking gun, and I will tell viewers just to be patient. And so they did call one of the lawyers working on this case, and it was not convincing at all. He said, in effect, all we have is what the public has seen, and we won't know more because we're investigating and looking for more. And so that just made me go, Why is everybody being so over the top and ridiculous and using words like the evidence is overwhelming? It was Tyler Robinson, when they don't have anything that's overwhelming.
You know what, Candace? You don't have anything that's overwhelming, and yet you're on your show every single day accusing Erika, accusing Turning Point insiders, accusing his pastor, accusing his friends of knowing beforehand that Charlie was going to get killed, being on the inside, that Charlie's closest friends and allies betrayed him. You're doing all this stuff, and then when Piers asks you, you have no evidence
to show evidence. They don't have a video of him taking the shot, which I think was something that I assumed, like, okay, there's all these cameras, maybe they actually have that video and they're waiting for a moment to release that to the public. They don't have that. Or at least I can say Erika's side has not seen that. And the lawyer communicated to me that they would not have access to that until earliest would be May, that right now they're just investigating, just like we're doing back at home.
Okay, you said that your motive for going to the meeting was that you would be able to come out and tell the world Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. So are you in a position to say that? Do you believe, as a consequence of your 4.5 hours with Erika, do you believe that it is now most likely that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk?
Absolutely not. I haven't seen one piece of compelling evidence that Tyler Robinson scaled the rooftops like Spider-Man on a college campus that he didn't go to, and fired one shot, a magic bullet shot, and killed Charlie Kirk.
Now, I'm just going to say, even if she did find evidence, even in this undisclosed meeting, her and Erika found some type of evidence, or she was convinced, she can't go on her show and say, hey guys, all done, investigation over, I found all the evidence. She can't do that. She has to still do this part. Why? Because she's making a lot of money every single day when she has all these millions of views about her episode. She has to milk it for as long as possible. All the evidence can be pointing towards Tyler Robinson. All the FBI evidence can be saying, hey, this person did it, but she has to keep this going every single day. Why? Because she needs money, and she can't just tell her friends, hey guys, I sat down with Erika and we had a private one-on-one, and yeah, I got all my questions answered. So no more new topic. She can't do that.
They can to cover the tracks. I would say to cover the tracks by demanding that there is no further inquiry into what happened on that day.
All right,
that is not a country that I can get behind.
Let's get to some of the details, because it seems to me you've put up a lot of theories, but a lot of them don't seem to have a clear conclusion from you about what you actually think happened. I mean, you've been all over this now ever since Charlie was killed. What do you believe happened to him? Who do you think killed him?
So I can't
watch her crumble right now. She is going to absolutely crumble by this.
Tell you definitively who pulled the trigger. I'm not going to lie to audiences and just put something out there that's not real. But what I can say is I feel convinced that the feds were involved. I can tell you that. I think the feds were involved in staging a cover-up. I think Kash Patel knows what happened and did not happen on that day. I am convinced by me being...
So this is the thing I find so frustrating. For months now, she's been saying that Tyler Robinson didn't shoot him and it's an inside job and cover up and all this other stuff. And then when pressed by Piers Morgan, okay, Candace, who do you think? You've been saying all this stuff. You've been insinuating all this stuff that Turning Point insiders and his friends and the pastor are covering up. Who do you think? And she said, well, I mean, I don't know who really did it. I think the FBI might have, but she has no evidence of any of this stuff.
Being told by people that are feds that he is not acting right and that he is not wanting to share any information. Just a couple of people are allowed to even see anything. A fed told me that they can't even touch the Charlie Kirk file without risk of being fired, and that he's grown increasingly mad. The U.S. Marshals that were there when they were doing the quote unquote manhunt for 33 hours said that Kash Patel effectively sent them on a wild goose chase, which is what was signaled to the public when he said, we got him, and it was actually the wrong person. And so it caused people to stop looking because they were convinced that they had the shooter. They felt that that was in order to allow the real perpetrators of the crimes to get away.
Right, but that could just be the fog of the immediacy of these things. We've seen it at Brown University. Exactly.
First of all, stuff like that happens all the time. When they get type of any credible evidence or something like that, they're going to investigate. They're going to detain. They're going to arrest whoever especially when a high profile volume like that person is killed, they're going to investigate every single thing. And if they get some type of inkling that you might be involved, they're going to detain you, they're going to arrest you, they're going to do some things, and then they're going to come out and say, hey, look, we don't have the right guy. But that's, again, part of doing their job. So I understand her point where they got the wrong guy a couple times. I totally understand that portion of it. But it sometimes like that, you get questioned, you get detained because you think this person might be involved, but you just don't want to be the FBI and let's just like, we're just going to let you go. We don't know. We're going to let you go. No, you're going to sit down and talk to everybody. So I get where she's coming from that standpoint.
The same thing. They thought they had the killer. They thought they had the killer.
Yeah.
It turned out to be the wrong person, right? It doesn't mean there's any great conspiracy by the feds to cover anything up. And again, even if what you're saying is true, I don't know, maybe you're right. If what you're saying is true, what is it they're covering up? You've so far intimated or inferred something weird involving Egyptian planes. So, what's that about? You've inferred perhaps Israeli involvement in some way. You've certainly inferred a lot of Turning Point USA.
It's always Israel with her. Always, always, always Israel. She hates Israel so much that Israel's involved in everything, the feds, Israel. That's what she's always going to say because she makes sure that America does not donate it to Israel anymore. She wants to make sure that the American public does not view Israel in a good light. So she is going to accuse Israel of every little thing. And some of her followers are actually going to believe it.
Involvement. That's a lot of people getting involved here in the murder of Charlie Kirk potentially. But what I'm really curious about is, given you've been all over all this and you've been airing all these theories, well, which one is it? It can't be all of these things. Is it somebody?
Well, of course,
is it someone at Turning Point USA? Yeah, I mean, who do you actually believe was behind this?
Of course, it can be all of those things. And what's really ironic here is that there's a clip of Charlie in the last months leading up to his death where he speaks about the JFK assassination. And he says that multiple countries were involved, multiple people were involved, the LBJ was involved, the feds were involved. And he's correct. That is what it means. When there is a conspiracy, there are multiple people that are involved. Of course, there's not one person on a grassy knoll who shot JFK.
Well, it might have been that.
There are people who had to agree to it. There had people who would have had to. The Dallas police were involved.
Candace,
I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question. You're asking, why aren't you just going to point to one person? That to me, even that seems like a part of telling people not to believe their own gut. Obviously, for this to have been pulled off, there had to have been multiple people involved. There had to have been people at Turning Point that were complicit in having this happen. Now, who knows what their motivations are? Doesn't mean maybe this person's like, hey, I'm going to help you.
Hang on. Okay, let me stop you. Hang on. When you say obviously somebody at Turning Point, you are accusing right now people that worked with Charlie Kirk at the company he built, which is now run by his widow. You are directly accusing people in that company of being complicit in his murder, right?
I want to just be very clear connecting that dot. So I said that when there is a conspiracy, of course, there are going to be multiple people involved. So applying that same logic to JFK, right? Knowing, as I do, and as Charlie did believe that LBJ was involved, which then implicates the feds as having been involved, which then implicates the Dallas police station as being involved. I believe Israel was obviously involved, that they were the ones that wanted him dead for saying that what is now AIPAC should have to register under FARA. So there's motive. There are people that have to be involved on the ground that day. There are people that have to be willing to allow the perpetrators to get away. There has to be media that's complicit, and that's what literally Operation Mockingbird was. It was established to persuade the public.
Candace, here's the problem.
Well, hang on. It was established. So
but here's the problem with everything you're saying.
In this massive cover-up.
You keep saying, and this is where people think you're prone to endless conspiracy theories for whatever reason.
Okay.
Is you keep using the phrase, they have to have been involved. So by that yardstick, what you're saying is, with JFK's assassination, and we recently had a lot of the files released, which did not conclusively prove any of these things, right? Now, again, I don't know what happened to JFK, but the one possibility you've not ruled in is it was just as simple as Lee Harvey Oswald. It might have been. We don't know. Right, so when you say the media has to have been involved, Lyndon Johnson.
See, this is why I respect Piers so much, because he's not just letting her go with all these insinuations. And obviously, this person, of course, it had to be. And then he is like, no. Factually speaking, where is your evidence? How do you not know it was not just Lee Harvey Oswald? How do you know? Where is all your evidence about Israel and the feds and LBJ? That could be true. But again, we don't know this to be factually true. So where is your? So that's why I'm so glad he's actually pressing her on these things.
decades.
Has to have been, but my problem is you're stating all these things as
fact. We can't do
fact.
63. It's such a nonsense to say that it was Lee Harvey Oswald acting
You
by
don't
himself.
know that.
That's just such a nonsense. Like, yeah, no, I do know it was not Lee Harvey Oswald acting by himself, and then that required national security to lock down the files, and that required the feds to impart, the CIA to impart Operation Mockingbird to convince the public that it was, you can't go against, there's a grieving widow, don't look further into it, don't believe your own eyes.
But let me just say, this is your, Candace,
it was
this is
a grand
Candace,
conspiracy that killed JFK.
Candace,
I am going to say that confidently. And I just think we have to grow up. We have to grow up. We can't keep pretending Lee Harvey Oswald. It's a fact.
It's not a fact.
It's a fact.
The whole reason there are still conspiracy theories about JFK's assassination is none of this is a fact. You are floating it as your theory.
Because the feds are never going to admit to their own crime.
This is something that Candace Owens does not understand, okay? You might have all these theories about LBJ and Israel and the Fed. That might be true in your mind, that you can think that Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't the only person doing it. Okay, cool. But again, you don't have evidence. So you can't just keep saying, well, no, I 100% know that you have no evidence. And that's why I'm so glad Piers is actually challenging her this, because she looks so dumb when she sits there and say, no, I know all this stuff. And then Piers says, okay, what do you know? Well, I don't have any evidence, but I know.
That is the reason we're still discussing it.
That may be the case, but you can't prove that.
Yeah, well, I can prove common sense that Lee Harvey Oswald did not stand on a grassy knoll and assassinate a president. And LBJ, like Charlie says in that clip, which people should go pursue.
Yes, I know Charlie said that.
All of the weird things that happened that day that were unusual, and LBJ decided not to ride that day. And then suddenly he reversed course on all of JFK's policies, and he was fighting AIPAC. Israel killed JFK.
All right.
Now, going back to your point about Turning Point USA and the ridiculous idea that implicating, this is a $100 million organization.
Yeah.
Common sense. If this was not even a high-profile political assassination and this was just a guy who worked at a company that was $100 million, right? Common sense inquiry is, was there a financial motive for this person to be dead, okay? This is like Sherlock Holmes 101. And this is what I mean when I say that the public no longer trusts the media because you're acting us to be stupid. And we don't want to do that. We actually don't want to pretend that we're clinical idiots who can't assess things and go, oh, there could be a massive motive here to have Charlie dead, especially when it seems very strange that Bibi Netanyahu, when nobody even had a clue of what happened, this guy's doing the rounds on Fox News and saying, I didn't kill Charlie Kirk. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's not weird. You know why he's doing that? Because you're accusing him of doing that. You just accused Israel of being behind JFK. You're accusing him of killing Charlie Kirk. When you say Israel, obviously Bibi Netanyahu is a prime minister. So when you say Israel was behind it, you're insinuating that the prime minister, Bibi Netanyahu, is behind it. So that's why he has to do these things.
Did you feel compelled to jump on to Piers Morgan's show and say, just so everybody knows, I didn't kill Charlie Kirk? Why would he say that?
So
why was he so involved that somebody who's fighting?
Because you accused Israel. So of course the prime minister, the leader of Israel, has to go on these TV shows and say, no, I did not do this, because you're accusing him of doing it. That you didn't accuse Piers Morgan of doing it. That's why he didn't say, hey, I didn't kill Charlie either.
I want to get 97,000 front war.
Candace, I want to get to the reality of what you're actually saying. So when you say that somebody at Turning Point USA, Charlie's company, was complicit in his murder, who was?
I believe that there were multiple people at Turning Point who are, as I have said many times, my exact words are, they are engaged in a cover-up of what happened to Charlie on that day.
No, but who was involved in his murder?
I didn't say that they murdered Charlie.
You said that people at Turning Point were complicit in his murder.
No, my exact sentence that I said was that there were people at Turning Point who are engaged in a cover-up.
No, you didn't.
I believe that thoroughly.
Candace, you didn't say that. You said literally.
I did say that on my entire show.
You said there were people at Turning Point complicit in his murder.
Okay.
That's what you said.
When you and I were discussing, that's why I said, let's go back. I was applying the logic of a conspiracy to JFK. I said, okay, if JFK, you have people that are complicit. Of course, if you apply that logic, if there is a conspiracy, there's going to be multiple people that are going to be complicit by the time, in order for a large stage murder to happen.
You specifically said, you didn't say complicit in a cover-up. You said complicit in the murder. Because I said, who at Turning Point was in...
That's exactly what she said. And by the way, this is phenomenal by Piers Morgan, because he's not just letting her lie and insinuate and do all these accusations and get away with it. He is actually pressing her. This is the first time Candace Owens has been pressed publicly. So she's falling apart right now.
Clarify for you.
In his murder. And
Let me clarify for you. Okay, you can keep saying what I said, or you can listen to what I am saying.
Okay.
When I was using the analogy of JFK and we were connecting it, I was basically pushing back on you because you were suggesting that, all of these people being involved would be crazy. So I was applying the analogy
I said,
of what
I don't
happened
know.
to JFK. Well, you actually, if you go back and listen,
said, I don't know.
Suggesting that a conspiracy.
I said, you don't know either. You're floating theories.
When we started talking about the JFK thing,
listen, let me make it clear.
Piers, I really think you're not holding on to your thoughts
Candace,
here correctly.
let me spell out my thought very clearly.
When we started talking about JFK, the implication that you were making was that it was crazy to suggest that multiple people could have been involved at different levels.
Candace.
I was then connecting the dots and saying that in order for the JFK assassination to happen, there had to have been tons of people that were complicit.
I understand.
Right?
I heard what you said.
Maybe you're the person who takes the cameras down. Maybe you're the person that told him to drive that day. Maybe you're LBJ. So they're not all complicit in the murder, but they're all at different varying stages involved in the cover-up, right? So that's what a grand conspiracy actually is. And I do believe, so you don't have to go back and we don't have to go through it. I'm telling you what I think about Turning Point. I am very known for being honest about what I believe. I'm not exactly a person that you got to pull teeth on.
Sure.
I believe that there are people at Turning Point who are engaged in covering up what happened on that day.
But were any of them engaged in the planning of the murder of Charlie Kirk?
I wouldn't know how it was planned. Absolutely, I can't make that. I cannot confidently make that statement. I can say confidently.
She can't confidently make that statement, but you can confidently make the statement that people on the inside were involved. How does that make sense?
That I know they're engaged in the cover-up because I've been investigating what happened on that day and what transpired thereafter. I've been clear. I've named those people on my show. I've said they are engaged in a cover-up, and I've listed the lies. So you don't have to try to make something out of what I didn't say. I tell you what I think. It's already controversial. We don't need to get more controversial, okay? Do I think someone at Turning Point pulled the trigger? No. Obviously, I don't think someone at Turning Point pulled the trigger. We don't even know who did pull the trigger. So how could I say that they're...
Did anybody at Turning Point, in your opinion, know that Charlie Kirk was going to be murdered?
There is specifically 2 people at Turning Point USA, and I have communicated that information to Erika and Justin Strife, that I would not be surprised if they had foreknowledge of Charlie Kirk being assassinated.
But do you have any evidence?
I'm not going to name. I am not going to name those people, okay? Because it's not right for me to name those people until I know for a fact that they did.
Did you give the names Did you give the names to Erika?
Yes, so I absolutely did.
You gave the names to Erika of 2 employees, current employees at Turning Point, who you believe were involved in the preparation for the murder of Charlie Kirk. Is that what you're saying? I
told them that if I were in your shoes, these would be 2 employees that I would look further into. That's
and what evidence do you have that they had any prior knowledge of the murder?
Because I don't have concrete evidence is the reason why I'm not naming them. So I've been responsible.
You've got no evidence,
not saying,
but you're telling the widow that these 2 people may have been involved in the murder. But you see the problem.
Well, the evidence for it is people that
what she's doing, she's being very strategic right now. She has no evidence to accuse these people publicly because she's going to get sued. But then she can say, hey, look, she's wording her stuff correctly where it says, well, I believe if I were you, I would look into these people without actually accusing them. So she can't just say, hey, this person were involved. I know this, because then she's going to, get sued for defamation. So that's why she's wording her stuff very carefully.
There was not concrete evidence. It's like you're trying to get me to say something that I never said and then asking me to defend it.
No, I'm asking what evidence you've got.
Let's actually go to, you're asking me privately, did I communicate to them that I think you should look further? That's called an investigation, Piers, okay? So what you're doing is a strategy of like, if somebody dies, you're saying to the police, you can't ask any questions about anybody unless you have concrete evidence. We're at the stage of investigation.
I'm not saying
yes,
that.
You can. And let me give people in the public the permission to do this. Follow your instinct. If you feel something is off, keep asking questions until you get concrete evidence. And when you have concrete evidence, you should name those people. I don't have the concrete evidence.
There's no problem with asking questions. That's not the thing. But there's a problem with you leveling accusations and insinuations and all this other stuff without any proof. Ask questions. Was Turning Point involved in this? Did they do something like that? I don't know. We have to ask these questions. But for you to just sit there and say, absolutely, I know 2 people that were involved. It's insane.
Have named other people.
There are inconsistencies.
Okay. But you have named other people.
I'm trying to answer. Piers, you can't ask me questions. You can't ask me questions. Let me finish it. I have communicated to them that their inconsistencies make me uncomfortable. I have communicated to them that somebody else who is a third party gave me some information that I am not yet comfortable as I am vetting it, giving it to the public, because that's the responsible thing to do. These are private citizens. And that if I were in their shoes and had more access to information, I would go down that route, okay? Unless I am fully confident that they actually did have something to do, like here is the smoking gun, I'm not going to name those people.
Okay.
But the people I have named thus far are people that I believe are engaged in a cover-up. Like I said, hold me accountable for what I have said.
Let's talk about one of those people. Let's talk about one of those people,
Cool.
because the Turning Point producer, Blake Neff, wrote this in early December. Ever since Charlie's murder, Candace Owens has leveled a flood of allegations against people at Turning Point USA, people at Turning Point Action, and people who work for the show. She has made them against some of Charlie's closest friends and against some of his most dedicated employees. She suggested that Michael McCoy, Charlie's chief of staff, knew Charlie would be murdered, was happy that he died, and stayed silent because he was told he would be the next Charlie. Now, let's move then to, you said in your podcast that new information was given to you in your meeting with Erika Kirk about Mikey McCoy that's now satisfied you. On a video on the 27th of October, you devoted the whole episode to this guy and his supposedly strange behavior. I never said
I have information that satisfied me about Mikey McCoy.
Well, I'll ask you to clarify. Okay, well, you can clarify that in a moment. But let's hear what you said about Mikey McCoy before the meeting.
So we decided to slow this clip down, and we're going to watch this clip slow down so you can see that it is exactly 834 milliseconds from the time that you hear the shot. That is how long it takes for Mikey McCoy to put the phone to his ear. Now, why is that precise timing so important? Because there's no dialing. Mikey didn't have time to dial, okay? You can't dial and put your...
She's just off her rocker right now, and she's just saying all types of stuff. But she's very good at getting views, and she's very good at people just tuning into all the lunacy and the crap that she's saying. Because guess what? People like going down a rabbit hole. People like conspiracy theories. People like things that are just like, oh, that's off, but maybe I'm thinking of something else, and this person is thinking the same thing I'm doing, so I'm going to follow what she said. That's all. She has zero evidence to back any of her claims up. Zero. But that's the problem right now. I'm so glad that Piers called her out, because she just seems like a lunatic. Honestly, she's there for views. She did the same thing with the Emmanuel Macron's wife being a transgender and all this other stuff. So she's like a conservative Whoopi Goldberg, just going down that rabbit hole and just saying nonsensical things just to get views. So she's the new Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah, I don't know what's going to go happen. I'm glad, Erika and her finally had this conversation, because if one of them would have denied to have a one-on-one conversation, it would have been like, wait, why are you denying it? So literally both of them were like, yeah, sure, let's talk. So it was kind of great to see that happen. So hopefully Candace Owens is going to stop these terrible accusations without actually having any proof, but it's Candace Owens. She needs to, so she's going to 100% keep leveling these accusations with no evidence. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. I'm out of here.